When my husband died, I didn't just lose him. I lost the rhythm of my days, the sound of someone in the next room, the tiny ordinary moments that make a house feel alive. The quiet became unbearable, and after 3 long years of grieving in silence, I did something I never thought I would. I posted an ad online, room available for women 50 plus. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but what happened next? It didn't just change the house, it changed me. The house was modest, but it was ours. We didn't need much, just a roof and each other. He laid the tile in the kitchen himself, and I painted the walls a soft yellow that never faded. We argued about furniture and laughed about it later. The garden out back was his pride. He'd hum while planting tomatoes every spring. I thought we'd be here until the end, drinking tea on the porch, waving at neighbors we'd known for decades. It wasn't grand, but it was stitched together with years of love, of rituals only we understood. I never imagined having to live here alone. I never imagined that love could echo so loudly once it's gone. At first I kept thinking he'd walk through the door, that I'd hear his boots in the mudroom, or his voice calling out for dinner, but instead there was just nothing. A silence I didn't recognize, not peaceful, not calm, just vacant. The house had a new sound, and it was unfamiliar, hollow. Even the clock ticking seemed to mock me. I'd get up and set 2 plates out by habit, then sit and stare at one. I didn't cry much, not because I wasn't sad, but because crying felt like a luxury. I was too stunned for emotion, too numb to move forward. People imagine grief as this dramatic thing, sobbing, screaming, dramatic revelations, but mine showed up in small, persistent ways. I woke up at the same time every day, made the same breakfast, fed a cat that no longer existed. I kept routines going because the thought of changing anything felt like letting go of him. I wore the same cardigan every morning because it smelled like the detergent we both used. My days weren't tragic. They were beige, numb, quiet. I didn't know how to stop the motions, so I didn't. I just did them, over and over. In the beginning, people meant well. They brought casseroles, sat awkwardly on the couch, asked what I needed. But then life moved on, for them. They stopped calling. Invitations stopped coming. The phone rang less. I got tired of initiating, of pretending I had updates to give. Eventually it was just me and the calendar. Each day blurred into the next, and I lost track of time. I started to hate weekends. Too much space, too much stillness. People say time heals, but healing needs company, and silence doesn't have much to say. I got good at pretending. I told people I liked the quiet, that I was using the time to read, to rest. I smiled, said things like, "I'm keeping busy." It was easier than admitting the truth. I felt invisible, like a ghost in my own life. I didn't want pity, so I gave people the version of me they could handle, the strong widow, the independent woman. Inside I felt brittle, like if someone looked too closely, they'd see the cracks. So I didn't let them look. I just kept the mask on and hoped no one noticed. The house had never felt big before, but now it was cavernous. His absence echoed in every room. I stopped going upstairs, closed the guest room, let dust gather in corners I used to care about. I'd microwave dinner and eat it on the couch, in silence. No music, no TV, just the hum of the refrigerator. The space that once held a life now held a void, and I couldn't fill it, not with books, not with chores, not even with sleep. I was shrinking quietly inside a house that suddenly felt too large for one person and too heavy with memory. I did what you're supposed to do. I joined a walking group. I signed up for a pottery class that met on Thursdays. I volunteered at the library shelving books no one read. I even downloaded an app for widows, full of cheerful bios and awkward small talk. I kept showing up, hoping one of those places would feel like a fit, but I always left early. I'd smile and nod and then rush home, exhausted from pretending. It all felt so forced, like I was wearing someone else's skin. I wasn't looking for distraction. I was looking for connection, but I didn't know how to ask for that anymore. No one tells you how much shame there is in loneliness, especially when you're older. There's this idea that by a certain point, you should be self-sufficient. You should have friends, hobbies, purpose. And if you don't, the silence becomes something you hide. I didn't want people to know how isolated I felt, how some days the only voice I heard was my own. So I downplayed it. I acted like solitude was a choice, like I'd outgrown the need for companionship. But deep down, I was still that woman sitting by the phone, hoping it would ring. It wasn't a dramatic moment. Just another night in an endless string of quiet ones. I sat on the edge of my bed, and for the first time I said it out loud. I don't want to be alone anymore. My voice cracked when I said it, like it surprised even me. It wasn't brave. It wasn't a declaration. It was a whisper in the dark, said to no one, with no plan. I didn't cry. I just sat there, feeling something shift. It was like admitting I was lost helped me see the path I'd been avoiding. Not a solution, but a start. I posted the ad late at night. I was staring at my utility bill and thinking, this can't go on. At first, it was just about money. I had space. Someone else might need it. But when I typed out the listing, I added a line I hadn't planned. For women 50 plus only. I don't know why I wrote that. Maybe I was hoping someone like me would answer. Someone who also needed more than a room. I didn't expect much. Maybe a few messages. Maybe silence. But something about writing those words made the house feel less empty. Even just a little. Her name was Marie. She showed up 2 days later with a purple suitcase and a cardigan buttoned wrong. She looked older than her photo and more tired. I nearly didn't open the door. Something in me panicked, like I was making a mistake I couldn't undo. But then I saw her shoes. They were worn down at the heels, like mine. I opened the door and said hello. She smiled not brightly but sincerely. We didn't hug. We didn't chat much. I showed her the room and she said yes. Just like that, the house wasn't mine alone anymore. At first, we were polite strangers. She had her coffee routine. I had mine. She stayed mostly in her room. I kept to my usual silence, but somehow it felt less empty. The kitchen light left on in the morning, the hum of the dryer running at night. We didn't speak much, just small nods, soft footsteps. But those little signs of life started to matter. I wasn't performing anymore. I wasn't pretending to be fine. We didn't know each other, but her presence was steady. It reminded me I wasn't invisible, not entirely. It wasn't planned. We both happened to be cooking pasta at the same time. She offered me some sauce, and I offered her some garlic bread. We ended up sitting at the small table with mismatched plates, eating quietly. There wasn't a grand conversation, just murmured appreciation for the food, a joke about overcooked noodles. But something loosened in the air. The silence wasn't heavy that night. It was soft, like a shared blanket. That dinner didn't change everything, but it cracked something open. It made space for something new to begin. After Marie settled in, something unexpected happened. Word got around. First, it was her friend, a retired nurse named Joan, who just left a bad living situation. Then someone saw the ad online, a woman named Denise. newly single and unsure where to go next. Suddenly there were 3 of them, then 4. I watched as this quiet house, once so still I could hear my own breathing, started filling up with footsteps, voices, coffee, brewing at odd hours. It wasn't loud, it wasn't chaotic, but it was alive. I hadn't meant to start anything, but something had started all the same. There were moments I panicked. I'd spent so long guarding this house, its quiet corners, the way I had things arranged, the routines I could predict. Now there were shoes by the door that weren't mine, dishes left in the sink, conversations I wasn't part of. I worried I was losing something sacred, that the memories I had built here with my husband were being overwritten. Sometimes I resented it. Not the women themselves, but the change, the noise, the loss of control. I didn't say it aloud, but I felt it, like I was betraying the past just by letting life back in. And yet, things I thought I'd lost forever started to return. Music in the mornings, drifting in from someone's radio, a laugh down the hallway while someone talked on the phone, shared groceries in the fridge, and not just out of convenience. Small, thoughtful items like my favorite tea or a slice of lemon pie. Someone put up birthday cards on the fridge, and we all started signing them. No one planned it. It just happened. Slowly the house began to reflect not just what had been lost, but what could still be found. Not the same love, but love all the same. It became clear, quietly, that none of us had come untouched. One woman had lost her sister and hadn't spoken to her kids in years. Another was grieving a divorce after 40 years of marriage. There were stories we didn't tell fully, but we didn't need to. You could feel it in the way we gave each other space or left an extra blanket on a doorknob. We weren't trying to fix each other. We just sat in the same weather. And that was enough. The house became a place where no one had to be okay all the time. We just had to be. There were days I got it wrong. I was too rigid about rules. Snapped when someone borrowed a mug without asking. One time I accused Denise of leaving the porch light on when it was actually me. Living with people again was harder than I remembered. I forgot how to share, how to soften. But every time I faltered, someone offered grace, not because they had to, but because they knew what it was to fall short and still be welcomed. The house didn't demand perfection. It made space for apology, and I tried, really tried, to learn. I started to realize this wasn't just about renting rooms. It was something else entirely. We made each other tea, checked in after doctor's appointments, celebrated small wins, like Marie going back to school, or Joan's granddaughter calling her after months of silence. We weren't a family in the traditional sense, but something about it felt deeper than roommates. We were choosing to show up, not out of obligation, but out of a quiet knowing that this house and what we were building inside it mattered. It wasn't just shelter. It was belonging. One night at dinner, I started crying. I don't remember why. Maybe a song had come on the radio, or maybe I was just tired of holding it in. I said I missed him, my husband, and I couldn't get the words out without my voice cracking. No one rushed to comfort me. No one tried to change the subject. They just sat there with me. It was the first time in years I cried and didn't feel embarrassed. No performance, no apology, just grief, accepted like weather. That moment broke something open, and I think it healed something, too. We didn't talk about it much, but something deep and rare began to grow between us. We shared things women don't always get to share. Not just chores and recipes, but fears, memories, dreams that still woke us up in the night. There was no romance, but there was love, real sustaining love. The kind that brings you a blanket when you didn't ask or remembers how you take your tea. We held space for each other. Not perfectly, not always gracefully, but with care. It was the kind of intimacy that doesn't need grand gestures, just presence, just showing up. The house still had quiet moments, but they didn't feel heavy the way they used to. I'd sit on the porch with a book, hear the clink of dishes from the kitchen, or soft footsteps upstairs. The silence had changed. It wasn't a void anymore. It was a backdrop to something shared, a stillness that held warmth instead of grief. Sometimes we sat together without talking at all. Just knowing someone was nearby made the difference. I used to fear quiet. Now I could rest in it. Not because I was alone, but because I wasn't. There are still days when I miss him so much I can barely breathe. His side of the bed is still empty. His jacket still hangs in the hall. But the house no longer feels like a museum to what we lost. It's not frozen in time. It's alive. I didn't replace him. That's not possible. What I did was make room. For others, for healing, for joy I didn't expect to feel again. The ache is still there, but it shares space now, with laughter, with music, with conversation drifting through the walls. I didn't get him back, but I got life back. Home used to be just him and me, wrapped in routines we built over decades. I thought when he died, that idea of home died with him, but now it's something else entirely. It's 5 coffee mugs drying by the sink. It's voices rising and falling down the hallway. It's a house where people look out for each other, not because they have to, but because they want to. There's no script here, no roles to play, just a shared sense of being welcome. I didn't rebuild the same home. I couldn't. I built a new one that's still becoming. I spent a long time thinking I had to be the grieving widow, dignified, composed, quiet, like that was the final chapter I had to live out. But somewhere along the way I let that go, not all at once, just slowly, day by day. I let myself be other things, curious, cranky, hopeful, silly. I started dancing while doing dishes again. I bought earrings just because they were blue. I stopped performing grief and started living truthfully. I'm still Lorraine, but not the same one I was. And thank God for that, because she was so tired. No one ever told me that life could begin again at 68, that I could still find new routines, new friends, new versions of myself. I thought I was done growing, that the best parts had passed. But this house showed me otherwise. The women I live with remind me daily that it's never too late to change, to soften, to laugh until your stomach hurts. We don't get youth back, but we get choice. And that's its own kind of freedom. I didn't go looking for a new life. I just opened the door, and one came in. Letting people in didn't cure the grief. It didn't erase the nights I still missed him, or the way certain songs could break me open. But it softened something. It reminded me I wasn't the only one walking around with a hole in her chest. That pain doesn't have to be hidden to be bearable. That you can sit beside someone else's silence and feel less alone in your own. We didn't fix each other. We just made space. And somehow that was enough. Letting people in didn't solve everything, but it gave me something to hold on to when nothing else did. Some of the women eventually moved on. One left to be closer to her son. Another found a new place once she got back on her feet. At first, their leaving stung. I worried the house would go quiet again, but it didn't. Because what we built didn't depend on permanence. It was about presence, being there when it mattered. We still keep in touch. Sometimes we don't. That's okay. Not all love is meant to last forever, but that doesn't make it any less real or any less worth letting in, even if only for a season. I wish I'd known sooner that loneliness isn't something to be ashamed of, that needing people doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're alive. I spent so much time pretending I was fine, thinking strength meant silence, but it doesn't. Real strength is admitting you're human, that you want someone to ask how your day was, that you want laughter in the other room. I thought needing that made me weak, but now I know. Asking for connection, for companionship, for a little light in the dark, that's one of the bravest things I've ever done. There's this quiet pressure when you get older to accept the shrinking of your world, to settle, to stop hoping. But I've learned that's a lie. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to want conversation and warmth and people who know your coffee order. You're allowed to want more than just survival. Whether you're 50 or 80, divorced or widowed, or simply tired of the quiet, you're allowed to want joy again. It's not greedy. It's human. And it doesn't mean forgetting what came before. It just means making space for what's still possible. I thought I was opening the door to strangers, women who might help me with the bills, keep the house a little less quiet. But really, I was opening the door to something deeper, to life again, to unexpected friendship, to healing I didn't know I needed. I didn't get the life I planned. I didn't get my husband back, but I got mornings with music, evenings with stories, rooms filled with signs of life. This house doesn't look the way it used to, and neither do I, but it fits now, perfectly, tenderly, quietly full. If this story stayed with you, take a moment, subscribe, like the video, or leave a comment. It helps more than you know, and I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever opened your life to someone unexpected and been changed because of it? If you're still listening, I think you'll really connect with my last video. It's about Miriam, a lifelong librarian who found her voice and her laughter in the most unexpected place, a stand-up comedy class at 70. Her story is a beautiful reminder that it's never too late to be heard. Ooh.